Hello, everybody. David Shuster here. Donald Trump's Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, has apparently done something so remarkably bad that it makes all the other administration controversies pale in comparison. That's right. Never mind bribes, corruption, destroying public health, ignoring court orders, and killing people. Tulsi Gabbard's alleged national security damage is reportedly far worse. The matter is so sensitive that authorities bottled up a whistleblower's complaint for 8 months in a safe as officials argued over how to respond to the complaint.
The whistleblower also alleges that Gabbard's office is not allowing Congress and the whistleblower's own lawyer from seeing it. This was first reported by the Wall Street Journal. The complaint was reportedly filed 8 months ago with the U.S. intelligence community watchdog office. The whistleblower's own lawyer says he hasn't been able to see it because the information is considered highly sensitive.
That's right. The information is so highly sensitive that even the lawyer for the whistleblower has not been allowed to see his client's complaint. So what is the whistleblower alleging about Tulsi Gabbard? We don't know. But we do know that it supposedly represents a grave threat to national security, implicates at least one other department in the Trump administration aside from Gabbard's office, and involves claims of executive privilege. Executive privilege usually covers conversations or communications with the President of the United States. Now, considering Tulsi Gabbard's personal relationship with the President of Russia, Vladimir Putin, Gabbard's history of spreading Kremlin propaganda, and Gabbard's dismissal of Russia experts at the CIA, it's not a stretch to guess that this may have something to do with Moscow. And the executive privilege aspect suggests it involves Donald Trump. The whistleblower's lawyer, Andrew Mackay, recently appeared on CBS News.
Our client requested to have this transmitted to Capitol Hill. That is the law. That is what Tulsi Gabbard should have done. That's what everybody's talking about right now. But really what's at play is the underlying complaint, the underlying disclosure that's being withheld from the Hill involves, the subject is Tulsi Gabbard.
And we don't know the nature of that complaint, is that right?
Well, we don't know the specific nature of the complaint. I have not seen the complaint because it's so highly sensitive. Now, the Director of National Intelligence in her office is saying because it is so highly classified that it's challenging to figure out how to get this to Congress. But frankly, if it's that sensitive and only limited members can see it, that makes it easier as to identifying into who to identify as to who to send this to.
And that's because there are provisions in the laws regarding whistleblowers to have their complaints sent to just 8 congressional leaders who are briefed on the most sensitive intelligence matters. This is the so-called Gang of 8. The Senate Majority Leader, the Senate Minority Leader, the House Speaker, the House Minority Leader, the Chairman of the House and Senate Intelligence Committees, and the ranking minority members of those intelligence committees. The Trump administration has told news organizations this is complicated, though, by executive privilege.
The Wall Street Journal themselves reported that the intelligence community, IG, said that that executive privilege would obviously involve something involving communications with the president or confidential and private discussions involving the president. So the question is, what is there? Why is that privilege being asserted? But again, that should have no bearing. These are red herrings. This should have no bearing on getting this to the Hill. You know, as a colleague once said, sometimes you find yourself, in a tricky situation trying to figure out what the right thing to do is. And you want to find the elegant solution. The elegant solution is here. It's in the law. Tulsi Gabbard is required to get this to Congress.
In the hours after that interview with the whistleblower's lawyer, Tulsi Gabbard's office finally turned over the whistleblower complaint to the Congressional Gang of 8. So it took 8 months, but at least Gabbard's office has finally followed the law's transmission requirement to Congress. The question now is, what laws did Gabbard break, and what national security issue did Gabbard expose or compromise with her underlying behavior? And what is the connection to Donald Trump? Well, we still don't know much about any of that, and the leaders in Congress who have been briefed or seen the complaint are not saying a word or even speaking in generalities about this. In the meantime, Tulsi Gabbard is already under fire for a recent political stunt. Donald Trump continues to insist, wrongly, that the 2020 election was stolen from him, so Trump reportedly told the Department of Justice to investigate and see if any evidence of fraud that did not exist 6 years ago can somehow be found now. Tulsi Gabbard, who keeps trying to prove her fealty to Trump by promoting his baseless claims, joined FBI agents recently on a raid of a Georgia election center. Legal experts say that such a ride-along in the FBI's collection of evidence by somebody who was not part of the FBI is unheard of. The Trump White House, as you might expect, doesn't care much, though, about legal or investigation protocols.
Tulsi Gabbard has been tapped by the President of the United States to oversee the sanctity and the security of our American elections. She's working directly alongside the FBI Director, Kash Patel. This is a coordinated whole-of-government effort to ensure that our elections, again, are fair and transparent moving forward. I don't see anything wrong with the President tasking a cabinet member to pursue an issue that most people want to see solved. Maybe you don't, but I know many Americans do want to make sure our elections are protected, and that's what Tulsi Gabbard is focused on doing.
Is there something specific that the president has concerns about that led him to ask the Director of National Intelligence to go down to Fulton County?
I just explained the president's concerns with voting in this country, and it's something that he wants to see solved for future elections, and I think that's something all Americans can get behind.
Actually, most Americans, a strong majority, believe the 2020 election was accurate and fair, and that our elections these days are also accurate and fair and do not need to be solved. Still, if there's anybody Donald Trump can count on to spin past or current election conspiracies, it's Tulsi Gabbard. She made her MAGA bones by popping up at Fox News to share wild claims about 2020. And as Director of National Intelligence, instead of evaluating intelligence and coordinating a response to threats, Gabbard is helping Trump create a narrative about election vulnerabilities. Gabbard is laying the groundwork and foaming the runway to help Donald Trump try and land his next attempted coup. Does this have anything to do with the whistleblower's complaint about Gabbard harming U.S. national security? One can only hope congressional leaders can find a way to answer all of this soon. Did you know that the big wireless carriers like Verizon and AT&T made over $18 billion in profit last year? How? By overcharging you for unlimited data, most of which you probably aren't even using. But what if you could get paid to use your phone less and only pay for the data you do use? Well, with Noble Mobile, you can. For just $50 a month on their No Bull plan, you get unlimited data, and whatever data you don't use, you get cash back right in your pocket. People who switch to Noble can save an average of $500 to $1,000 a year. It's a no-brainer. And by switching to Noble, you're directly supporting TYT and our mission of bringing you honest, independent news. So give Noble a try and make the switch today. Scan the QR code on the screen now or visit go.tyt.com/plan. That's go.tyt.com/plan. By the way, in Minnesota, a delivery driver recently shattered the conservative narrative of a videographer for Turning Point USA.
Seems like you're not going anywhere. You're just eating your sandwich? Yeah. What are your thoughts on this anti-ICE protest happening right in front of you?
I think it's great. If I wasn't working, I'd probably be in it.
Okay. How long have you been waiting in traffic now?
About, I don't know, between 5 and 10 minutes.
I don't think it's going to be ending anytime soon. You could be here in traffic for another 10, 15 minutes.
Yeah, that's all right.
Check out that video at the link below. I'm David Shuster. Thanks for joining us.